What's up and welcome to the Sam Dracula channel, a Charlotte Hornets fan channel, and there's no Hornets basketball, but there's Hornets stuff to talk about. This is going to be the first of I don't know how many video series as we go through the off season talking about the players from this past season, guys that are, have timely things coming up. You know what I mean? Paul Jermaine Washington Jr. specifically is who I'm talking about. PJ Washington, restricted free agent. Team's gonna have to make a decision on him. So reportedly last year they tried to get PJ on a 4-year, $52 million contract, which is not chump change. It's a lot of money, but it's Brandon Clark money. And I know I'm a Hornets fan. I know I'm biased, but PJ Washington is better than Brandon Clark. And I think PJ was smart to say no to this because I think he proved this past season why he deserves more. How much more? Well, that's the question. I want to keep this apples to apples best I can when looking at what PJ Washington could realistically pull in this summer, in his restricted free agency. You never know when a guy hits the market who's really into him and who isn't. The Hornets, I would put money on keeping or matching any offer for PJ because the Hornets cannot afford to lose PJ for nothing. Like if they want to let him go and bring back Bridges, not a fan of that. But if they do that, they got to get something back in a sign and trade. But PJ Washington is the type of player that you got to keep in your franchise because he can do a lot of things. More on that later. But for as far as contracts, looking at the 2019 draft, right? Zion got paid, Ja got paid, RJ got paid. You know, some of these things aren't like the others, but these guys got paid. DeAndre Hunter got paid. You know, that's more in line, closer to PJ. But DeAndre Hunter got paid a lot of money. And I think this is probably like DeAndre Hunter, 20, 21, 23, 24 a year. I think that's gonna be the ceiling on anything PJ could get. And anything more than that, I think would be a mistake. But also just for real quick, anything close to what RJ is making would be a terrible mistake, right? Right. So then you bring back Brandon Clark, right? He's in that same draft class, 12 and a half a year. That's on a low end. That's lower than what he said no to before last season. So where's the sweet spot? Where's the number? And I think if they can get 4 years, $15 million a year for PJ Washington, I think that's really fair. I think that's a great deal for PJ and a great deal for the team. And all these cap numbers are all relative, right, to a team's goals, to where a guy was drafted, what kind of capital is wrapped up into that, how a guy was acquired, and also just how the rest of the cap is, allocated, right? If you got a bunch of rookies, you can afford to overpay a guy or two to keep him here because you got guys on rookie contracts. Or in this example I'm about to explain, when you got a guy on a really nice deal, a guy that signed a really nice contract extension, you can afford to pay more for another guy. Here's what I mean. The Hornets extended Nick Richards during the year. 3 years, $5 million a year. I think they're underpaying Nick Richards, which I think allows them to overpay PJ, right? If you look at the salary cap as a whole, and if you have Nick Richards and PJ Washington like sharing the same slice, it's not bad. Nick Richards and PJ Washington as building pieces as you're trying to round out a rotation is pretty good. They're pretty good players. They're getting better every year, and you want to keep them here in Charlotte. I want to keep them here in Charlotte. And because of Nick Richards' cap figure, I think it allows them to overpay, for lack of a better term, PJ to keep him here in Charlotte. Why is it so important to keep PJ here, right? They have younger players, right? I got Kai Jones from 2 drafts ago. You got JT Thor from the same draft. You got the possible return of Miles Bridges, right? Why is it so important to have PJ Washington return? Well, because basketball, successful basketball, is about sacrifice, right? The best teams have guys willing to take a back seat for the greater good, to be valuable without scoring, to be valuable on defense, right? To be valuable in different roles. PJ embodies that. He's embodied that since he got here. Rookie year, he was a starter. Second year, they made him play center. Third year, they made him come off the bench. And then now, he's back to starting again because, something happened with Bridges. PJ's done it all for the team. And I think his mentality is what you want when you're building a team. Like PJ plays team basketball on both ends. And when it comes to his roles and how he's used through 2 coaches now, he's shown to be reliable and trustworthy. And you can't really say that about a lot of guys on this roster. And when he is starting, he's a 4th option at best when you have a fully healthy team behind LaMelo, Terry, and Gordon. Like PJ knows his role in that setup. And who knows what they get out of Mark Williams next year. He could become the 5th option in the starting 5. And I truly don't think PJ has an issue with that, because he knows, and we know as Hornets fans, when those guys are gone, PJ steps up. We've seen him step up in big ways multiple times this past season and the previous 3 years. And here's what I mean. These are scoring numbers, some of his season high scoring figures from this past season. This big game, his career high against the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? PJ put up 43 points in a game, and this team needed every single one of them. Look who he shared the floor with. Teo Maledon, Mekhi Luke, Richards, and McGowens were the starters. Thor, Jones, and Bouknight off the bench. Tragic. An absolute tragic rotation there. And PJ let the team through, when realistically the Hornets have nothing to play for. Let's go back all the way to October, when there was still hope, when the Hornets were 500. You know what I mean? The Hornets whooped. We didn't know the Warriors would be terrible on the road at this point. But which I'm pretty sure they lost to the Pistons the next night. So I think we became clear after this. But at the time, we didn't know like we know now, right? PJ, 31 points. No LaMelo, no Terry. PJ steps up against a real opponent. There's examples after examples after examples of this from PJ's entire career here in Charlotte. He's too valuable of a young player and a role player or a starter, depending on however you want to roll out the team. I think he could do it all. And you got to keep him. You have to keep PJ here. We'll find out what the team does with PJ at the end of June, beginning of July, right? I'm sure reports will come out ahead of time. We'll see what's going to happen with PJ Washington. But again, if this franchise lets PJ go for nothing, it'll be a massive L, right? Just a tremendous L for the franchise. Another one, in all honesty. And it'll be truly inexcusable. It was funny. It's funny. I actually ran into PJ in Uptown Charlotte a few weekends ago. My mom was in town visiting. PJ was with his family and his kids, and I didn't want to say anything to him, but I so badly want to yell to him, "Hey man, appreciate everything you've done. Get your money, because you deserve it." And I hope he gets his money. I really do. Stay tuned. I'm going to make a video on Kelly Oubre next, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. But until next time, I've been Sam. You've been great. Peace.